Welcome to part 2 of the Hexie Carryaround bag. I didn't tack all of my hexagons in that amount of time. We ended up in quarantine, so I did some glue basting because I'd prefer to get on to doing the stitching of them together when I'm at home than I would to thread baste them. So when I'm gluing, I glue away from the edge of the paper. My seam allowance is a 3/8 of an inch, so that gives room to fold it over and have your glue away from the edge. If the glue's too close to the edge, it makes it hard to sew your hexagons together later. Just gluing around. I like to use these glue pens. For me, they work well. Then my rows across in 3 rows of 18 with your orientation like this, your peak sticking up like that. Then you can take a photo of them for reference of how to put them back together again in case you spill them or whatever. I tend to pick mine up by going from one side and just putting them all on top of each other. All the way across, just popping them on top of each other. And then clipping them together with a clip. Then I just take the top 2. So that's my end one and this one, and sew them together. For me, needles and thread matter. My favourite needles are Sue Daly Milliner number 15. And my thread of choice is bottom line, superior bottom line thread, or Wonderfil 80 weight. Then when sewing them together, just come up through your corner, to your corner, through the edge of the fabric with a needle in the bottom of the thread. My way I do my needles, my knots in my bottom is like so. Then come up in the corner. And then do a knot across, so come across once, and then across again. This time, my thread from this side, under my needle, from this side, under this way. I'll do that again. So coming from here, let's see if I can turn around. And so the needle, the thread that has come out of the bottom here around this way and out of the eye of the needle around the other way, so that you're getting a figure 8 knot. Sue Daly calls this a knicker knot. The reason she calls it a knicker knot is because when she was teaching overseas, people didn't know what the name of the knot was, so she'd say to them, if you get your knickers in a knot, and that's how they would remember to do that knot. So just stitching them together. I do this 2 ways, the way that I'm stitching right now, and I've got a bit of glue on my finger so it's not going too well. And then I also will sometimes stitch from this way. That way both your hands are going, you're not twisting your hand around, and you won't get as much pain in your hands. So if my hands are sore, I will come and sew this way as well. It's a bit slower. But I don't mind slow. Okay, so just stitch all of your hexagons together down across the row like I've done here into rows. Then once you've got them into rows, just stitching them together. The same way, the same stitching, but when you stitch along, then you just pivot the next one to come around and keep doing that so that you get a zigzag going across there. Then once you've sewn them all together, removing the papers, if I've glued them, just sticking my orange peel. It's not an orange peel, it's an orange stick. I've been making orange peels in another project. So your orange stick, loosen your edges, and then your paper will just flip out. When I've thread basted, it's just a matter of popping it under and popping it out. I like thread basting if I'm going to applique them on, because my edges stay turned under. They do stay turned under glued, and especially if you give it a press first, but that's my preference if I'm going to applique my hexagons onto something, is to thread baste. But if I just making a panel like this, because when we're finished making our panel, we're going to draw a line across the top here, just across the top of these, and cut away. So I'll explain that again in the next step. I'll also list the requirements in the description below so that you know what you need for the next steps. So keep stitching your hexagons together, and I'll come back with the next bit.